I think it's the afternoon now. My name is Peter Clydesdale, and I am here as the Chief Commercial Representative from NatureWorks LLC. And I assume that I need to go quickly so that we can get out of here before 1 o'clock. Most of this presentation is pictures, so hopefully it'll go in 15 minutes or so. What I'm going to do is cover 4 areas, just give people a quick introduction to NatureWorks, the company, and what we do. To speak a little bit about what's going on in the bioplastics market around the world. To show a lot of pictures on some recent launches at retail with products made from our raw material. And then speak a little bit at the end about our company and how we plan to grow. So for those of you who are not familiar with NatureWorks, the company, we are a US-based producer of lactide and polylactide products. We have a single manufacturing facility in Blair, Nebraska. We have a global sales and marketing infrastructure. And we rely on intellectual property and know-how that we have developed for over 20 years. We've been in business as the leading biopolymer producer globally for over 20 years. Very simply, what we do is rely on the process of photosynthesis. We take fermentable carbohydrates stored in plants. We use that starting point to produce lactic acid that is then polymerized and turned into polylactic acid resin, which we sell under the NGO trademark. And that NGO resin, and we produce roughly 15 or 16 commercial grades today, is used in thousands of products that are found in retail use around the world, and I'll go into that in a bit more detail later. Steve Davies has already talked a little bit about some of the benefits of using bio-based compostable materials such as NGO. A couple of the key ones that major brands that we work with around the world rely on come from our eco profile, which was most recently published in August of 2010. And you can see the carbon emission reduction impact of using our current technology, which is listed as NGO Current at the top of each of these bar charts. And then also non-renewable energy usage reductions as well. So these are 2 of the key benefits that many of the people using our material promote in the products that they sell using our raw material. One other point at the bottom is that we have continued to improve our technology, and that enabled us to upgrade our eco profile from what we published first in 2005 to what we published last year in the Journal for Industrial Biotechnology, the August edition of 2010. And we expect to make further improvements as we optimize the technology that we utilize. This just gives you a reference point for the most recently published eco profile. You can download it from the NREL, Non-Renewable Energy Lab's website in the United States, part of the Department of Energy. This is work that has been peer-reviewed, reviewed by a body of academics from around the world, and unlike many companies in the field, we have been very transparent about publishing everything that we have done to support claims of reducing carbon emissions, allowing or enabling lower non-renewable energy usage. So I would encourage people that are not familiar with this latest published article to access it through that website and go through it in more detail on your own time. Steve Davies from SPI went through the Bio-Preferred program. In short, the U.S. Department of Agriculture in the United States is now the newest authenticator or reference point for bio-based products and packaging materials in the U.S. That's a very favorable trend for companies like NatureWorks that are responsibly trying to promote the benefits of bio-based and compostable materials such as NGO. There are a number of end-of-life options that NGO PLA products enable. The newest one is what we refer to as feedstock recovery, in essence chemical recycling. The single monomer homopolymer structure of PLA makes it very easy to hydrolyze back to its lactic acid form using primarily heat and steam. So this is important practically because today there are a couple of companies, one in Europe, one in the United States, that source PLA waste from a number of different sources, both in Europe and North America. The primary one would be from industrial users of our material, so industrial waste. The second would be scrap from closed venue events that are managed in Europe and the United States, like sporting events or music festivals would be examples, or conferences would be examples as well. And then finally, NGO from curbside collection, so post-consumer sources of PLA waste as well. And these two companies, Loopla is the technology that Galactic, a Belgian lactic acid producer, uses to recycle NGO scrap into lactic acid. And then there's a company in North America, Biocore, that is actively seeking to aggregate waste sources to feed into a chemical recycling program that we're in the process of setting up in North America. We at our Blair facility have taken back some of that regenerated lactic acid and used it to make fresh PLA resin that we have sold out in the marketplace. So this is a new model of recycling that, once scaled up, will enable, hopefully, an alternative option to the flawed mechanical recycling infrastructure that exists today in much of the world. A few examples of material that has been collected and then put through this feedstock recovery process in Europe by Galactic would be 100% NGO-based carpeting that was used at the COP15 climate change conference in Copenhagen back in late 2009. All of that material was collected, was shredded, and then was fed through Galactic's Loopla process and turned back into lactic acid. Galactic has also sourced through a number of events organized across Europe, primarily musical and sporting events, NGO-based drinking cups that they have washed, shredded, and then put through that Loopla process to turn into lactic acid. And finally, cards, loyalty and gift cards that a number of brands, particularly in North America, have been using. We're in the process of setting up further trials in Belgium to use some of this material to put through that same process. So switching gears and talking a little more broadly about the biopolymer industry in general. A lot of this has already been said. It's kind of a busy slide, for which I apologize. But Steve Davies talked about the two different approaches to calling something bio-based. In the case of NGO, which is the material that we make at NatureWorks, we are probably the most commercially active example of that first category, which would be bio-based and biodegradable. And so we, in essence, are a new product. Whereas the second category is renewable, but it replaces existing polymers. And so biopolyethylene from Braskem would be an example of that second category of product. With respect to NGO, which is the PLA that we produce at NatureWorks, I think Mr. Wong mentioned that the cost is an ongoing concern. I can say three things about our business. One, we have optimized what we do at our Blair facility today, and we have worked with our parent company, Cargill, so that the raw material that we use is very optimally costed from a NatureWorks perspective. The second thing we've done is we've managed our yields, improved our yields, and managed recycling programs internally very effectively. And thirdly, we have put a lot more volume through our facility in Blair, so that today, in the North American market, PLA resin sold by NatureWorks under the NGO trademark is cost competitive with PET, with polystyrene, and with polypropylene. We are cost competitive today in the North American market. A lot of that has to do with the way we source our raw materials, the way we've managed and improved our yields, and the fact that we're now putting significant volumes, commercial scale volumes, through our Blair facility. Although there is emerging competition in the PLA space, and Mr. Wong mentioned a number of those companies in China, most of them are operating at 1,000 metric tons a year, maybe 5,000 tons a metric year sort of scale. That cannot compare to the 140,000, 150,000 metric tons that we already have installed and that we're operating at our Blair facility today. And we don't see that gap changing for at least another 5 years. The biggest impact is not the cost of the resin. The biggest impact is the supply chains and the distribution channels beyond the point of resin sale that also have to be optimized. So it's optimizing the system, which goes well beyond what we as a resin supplier do. So you have to have people who are able to take our melt processable resin and turn it into a product that people can use at retail. And to get the scale and to get the assets configured to do that efficiently, and to find the right distribution channels, and to work with the right brands and end users to create the pull necessarily to price competitively something at retail, that entire chain, that entire system needs to be optimized. We today work with roughly 300, 400 NGO licensees around the world. All of those licensees have to be operating optimally and efficiently for you to be competitive at retail today. And that's the biggest challenge. It's not the cost of the resin. The cost of the resin is competitive already. That's the key issue. You don't hear many people talk about it because most people have not been dealing with this for the length of time that we at NatureWorks have been doing this. And it's taken us almost a decade to set up and optimize these supply chains with today over 300 NGO licensees. That takes a lot of time and effort to get set up. So just to give you some examples of where NGO-based products are being sold around the world today, we function across 6 primary product segments. The first 2 are related: fresh food packaging and food service ware, films and cards, bottles and containers, nonwovens and fibers, and then our newest mainstream segment, which is durable products. In the last year and a half, we've set up a 7th segment, which is this one, biobased NGO lactides. We are now selling our monomer as a commercial product. We're selling 4 primary grades. We are going to be launching a mesolactide grade in the next month or 2. Today you can buy R&D sample quantities of mesolactide, but they will become commercially available in the next 6 months. And we're really focused not on the 6 applications that I showed, but more on copolymer specialty chemical specialty applications for people in particular who want to do copolymer work with lactide as a monomer feedstock. And so we set up this business about a little over a year ago. And as you can see on this chart here, it represents 2% of total sales today for NatureWorks. Fresh food packaging and food service ware collectively represent about 60%. And then the remaining 40% is from films and cards, nonwovens and textiles, durable products, beverages, which is very small, and then, as I just mentioned, our newest platform, lactides. So roughly about 66 to 70% disposable products, 30 to 34% or so durable products, to think about it in very simplistic terms. In terms of where we sell, which regions we sell our polymer today, North America, which includes the United States and Canadian markets, is close to 50% of our total business today. Europe is close to 20%, and then Asia Pacific and Japan represent the remaining 30%, a little more than 30% actually. I'll also point out that our business is growing at about a 35 to 40% growth rate, and with 1 year of global recession, that growth rate has defined our business pretty much since 2005. I will talk a bit more about the implications of that in the last section when I talk about our growth plan. At this point, I want to give you a flavor for some of the products that are being launched, some of the newer products that are being launched in the marketplace through NGO licensees across those 6 product segments. You can see in North America that we work with a number of leading food packaging converters. Fabrical, Solo, Packard, and Berry are 4 of many examples that I could cite, but each of these 4 have launched a suite of NGO-based products in the last year to serve largely fresh-cut fruit, cold and cold drink, bakery products, and the like. We have also worked within the fresh food packaging segment with a number of brands. About 7 months ago in North America, Stonyfield Farm, which is an organic yogurt brand owned by Danone, switched all of their multi-pack yogurt cups from polystyrene to NGO PLA, which represented a very significant brand success for us in the North American market late last year. Stonyfield has since talked about how this program has represented a triple win for them. Number one, it gives them the ability now to talk about reducing their carbon footprint since they've switched away from polystyrene and into NGO, which is obviously an environmental benefit that they can market. The second thing is that they have been able to produce a stronger yogurt cup from our material than they were able to do with polystyrene. And the third thing is that the NGO yogurt cup is actually cheaper for them to produce and use than the polystyrene counterpart. So for them, it's a triple win that their CEO and Chairman Gary Hirschberg talks about at conferences around the world. More recently, Stonyfield Farm's parent company, Danone, switched, again, polystyrene into NGO. All of their multi-pack and single-serve yogurt cups in the German market under the Activia brand, and they did that with the all-important endorsement of a leading non-governmental organization, the World Wildlife Fund, which in the German market was a necessity for Danone to move forward with this new cup. And really the key marketing component that was important for Danone was the ability to talk about a reduced carbon footprint and lower energy usage, which they've been able to do very effectively since they launched this program about 2 months ago. At the same time, they were able to get WWF in Germany to talk very favorably about bioplastics and about NGO, our material specifically. They also talked about the feedstock recovery program that I mentioned earlier, the ability to chemically recycle products that are made from NGO, and they called on all of Danone's competitors to join forces so that enough critical mass could be deployed around setting up an effective chemical recycling program for the German and even European market in the next 5 to 10 years. So coming from the words of WWF, a very powerful endorsement of what Danone and what NatureWorks have been able to do in partnership. Walmart in the United States continues to expand their use of NGO-based containers for a number of deli and salad products that they are expanding in stores across the United States. That's done under the Market Side in-store brand that they own. And we're very pleased to see that program continue to develop very aggressively and visibly. We have a number of converters who are now offering hot cup, cup lid, and cutlery options They're suited for hot food use. So the Dixie brand, which is owned by Georgia Pacific in the United States, is an example. Solo is another example. Solo has done most of the work for Starbucks around the world. Then we also have a number of licensees, including some here in China, that are offering, again, lids, NGO-lined paper cups, as well as cutlery for hot food use. Gift cards. A number of brands around the world are using our material, typically as a blend with something different, but at least 90% NGO-based, for loyalty and gift card programs. A couple of examples here would be REI, which is a leading outdoor products company in the United States, which some of you may not be so familiar with. But then Apple, who I'm sure all of you are familiar with, is also using our material in all of their iTunes cards around the world. In flexible packaging, the two newest examples are Target stores. Target, of course, being a major competitor to Walmart, where they are now using an NGO-based film on a simply balanced chip bag program that they launched a few months ago in the US market. Purina, which is a pet food brand owned by Nestle, has also used our material in pet food products they sell at retail. And then for those familiar with FritoLay, they've just launched their second generation Sun Chips bag, 100% NGO based. This comes with a rubber-based adhesive that lessens the impact of the noise that people found somewhat discomforting in the first generation bag that they launched almost a year ago. They've since come out with a second generation bag, and we expect them to come out with a third generation, also 100% NGO based, towards the end of the year, which, if all goes well, will enable them to move away from just being confined to the 10.5 ounce bags and to move into the single serve chip bags, which is a much larger volume opportunity for them and for us. Conagra continues to lead the way in terms of use of NGO-based shrink films and tamper bands in the branded food products space. So you can see that they have a number of retail food brands, and they are actively using our material. They also won an award last year for their proactive use of recycled PLA. And so we're very pleased to see Conagra expanding their program as well. And what Conagra is doing in North America has long been done in the Japanese market by a number of leading food and beverage brands, Ajinomoto being one, Sapporo, Asahi, and Coca-Cola being others. They have also used a number of shrink labels, tamper bands, shrink films for a host of products for many years in the food and beverage market in Japan. Finally, our newest NGO film licensee is a European company called Taglief Industries. They set up a brand new biaxially oriented film line dedicated to NGO use about 6 months ago, and they are now in the process of using that line to support a launch of a suite of Nativia-based films that they are selling across Europe. And we're very pleased to see that progress continue because it really has allowed us to fill out our film business in the European market specific today. But we also have a number of companies that are selling wipes, including baby wipes. A few examples are listed on this slide. And then diapers. We have a diaper componentry made from NGO already being used at retail both in the United States and Korea through Kimberly-Clark. NGO with PMMA or NGO with PBS or ABS, or PBS for that matter, but it's been used in a number of consumer electronic products that are made in the Asia-Pacific region primarily. We have stationary products, cosmetic products, filtration products, even a weight scale. The casing for this weight scale in Japan launched using an NGO-based composite about 6 or 8 months ago. So I'm being given the 1-minute signal. So I'm going to very quickly just wrap up by talking about a few of the implications of all of this growth for NatureWorks. We set up an operation in Latin America about a year ago. We now have 4 agents who represent us in the all-important markets of Brazil, Chile, Mexico, and Colombia. We're looking to expand into Argentina, and we hope that this business will represent about 5% of our total sales in the next 3 years or so. Very importantly, we are in the process of finalizing capacity expansion of our existing Blair facility, which today is operating with 140,000 metric tons of capacity. We hope to bring that up another 20,000 metric tons or so in the coming 12 to 18 months. And we're in the final stages of laying the groundwork for finalizing a site selection for our second polymer plant, PLA plant, which we expect to be in Southeast Asia, and we hope to be able to announce something along those lines in the next 1 to 2 months. The way our business is growing now, we expect that we will need that second plant to be up and running by late 2014, early 2015. Finally, just a longer-term vision of how we hope our business evolves. But today, we have the single plant in Blair, Nebraska, which is based on plant sugar that comes from corn. Plant 2, which we hope to have up and running by 2014, 2015, will likely be sugarcane or tapioca based, which would be the primary feedstock in Southeast Asia. For plants 3 and beyond, maybe starting in 2017, we're hopeful that there will be a component that's cellulosic feedstock based. And then, as I mentioned, the feedstock or the recovered PLA or recycled PLA option. Starting in 2013, we hope to see enough critical mass around that type of recycling program get developed, such that that becomes a reasonable sourcing option for us as well. So just 2 more points before I wrap up. For anyone who wants to know more about all of these product launches and what's going on at NatureWorks around the world today, you can sign up for a free newsletter. We send it out once every couple of months. And so please go to our website, natureworksllc.com, and sign yourselves up for our newsletter. We'll send that to you automatically every couple of months with all of the updates that you may be interested to know about. And then in addition to our booth at Chinaplas, and we will have NatureWorks representatives there for the next 2 days, so feel free to come and visit us and talk to us in more detail at our booth. But we will also host the 3rd Innovation Takes Root Global Conference. We've done 2 of these. We got about 350 people in Dallas, Texas when we did it last year. Our 3rd Innovation Takes Root conference, really focused on the global NGO community, will be held in Orlando, Florida in February of 2012. We expect to have 500, maybe even 600 people attend this event, and it's really for us to present, and our stakeholders around the world to present all the latest developments in terms of what's going on, not just in our business, but the businesses of our competitors, of all of our stakeholders in the biopolymer field, inclusive of media, and for people to exhibit what they're doing and also to network. So I would strongly encourage people that may have an interest in attending, and we had very good representation at our first 2 conferences from the Asia-Pacific region, to go to a website listed at the bottom here that is specific to that conference. So again, that's February of 2012 in Orlando, Florida. So we would invite all of you to take a look at the details and come and attend. So thank you very much for your time and patience.